about the big old packet that I put out there. I just kind of, today, when Dr. Music talked to me about speaking with you guys, we just talked about doing nuts and bolts kind of music ministry stuff. And so that's what we're going to kind of talk about. And feel free to stop me and ask questions or make comments or whatever you like to do. I like to think of myself as it's just been just a few years since I was in your position, but as I was adding up the years, I probably was in your position right about your birth date or something like that. So I graduated in OBU, Oklahoma Baptist, in 1990, so that makes me kind of old. And just on behalf of all 40-year-olds everywhere, I want to apologize for the way that we run over Facebook now. I apologize for totally taking it over. If you look at the little handout there, the Heights Baptist Church, we're just kind of talking about where we are, and I realized that, I was talking with Dr. Music about this, that I wouldn't want to be in the position of trying to figure out how to ready someone to lead worship in the Baptist landscape that we've got right now, because everything is so wide open and anything goes, it's hard to know exactly what to do. But I think that it's an exciting time. But I totally believe that there's never been an easier time to lead worship, and there's never been a harder time to lead worship because of all the, well, for the same reasons, because of all the resources available. I mean, you can get anything whenever you need it, just download it, and it's there at your fingertips. But it's certainly, so you can go easily into brain overload, especially for me. It's easy for me to go in brain overload. But just all the options out there and all the different worship styles, and everybody's got one that they love, or 3 or 4 that they love, and you just have to figure out which day you're on in their life. So thank you for what you're doing to prepare yourself for ministering through church music and worship. And if you look at the little logo thing up there at the top of the first page, I couldn't figure out a way to number these pages. Really, nice looking. So feel free we'll just kind of muddle through with everything, since I pulled several different documents together. But we've got 4 things that we try to really that are the lifeblood of our church. And that's to worship, grow, serve, and share. And so almost everything that you'll see from the Heights has those 4 emblems or logos on them. And so obviously I'm the guy that is most associated with the worship deal. And I lead we've got 2 services at our church, 2 normal weekly services. One's at 9:15, and it's kind of a blended or format where kind of anything goes. And that's the one that I'm in charge of, where we've got a choir and an orchestra, but we're pretty much kind of rhythm section based, and then we'll kind of add things as need be. We normally have me plus at least 4 other singers, or maybe sometimes a little bit less, that are down on the platform. But it puts me right in my wheelhouse, I think, which is kind of taking what I believe to be some of the best of the old and putting it with what hopefully is the best of the new, and just kind of mixing it all up. But I realize too, for some people, that we're going to offend somebody just about in every service. So it's really in the same way that it's awesome to have all these amazing things at our disposal in terms of songs or video drama or different styles and different instrumentation, all that kind of stuff. I also realize that for one person that's connecting, for the 15-year-old that's sitting over there really connecting with something, there might be somebody that is in their late 80s and just going, I'm not quite getting it. But I'm just a big fan of being able to kind of pull stuff together and synthesize things and come up with hopefully a creative way to worship and keep things fresh and new. And we've got a great staff to talk about kind of the team that puts our services together and how we do it. And with that later. At 10:50, we've got another service that affectionately known as the 11 o'clock service, because everyone gets there late. But it's led by a band, and it's the band Ducky. So a few of you guys might be familiar with them, because they led up here at UBC for several years. And I don't know if anybody came to the music school with that group that Logan Walters is kind of the lead guy in that deal. But they're all from Waco, but they've recently moved up there, and they do our 1050 service, and that's pretty much their primary responsibilities to lead that. They don't have any other responsibilities in terms of from our music team. It's me. I've got a full-time orchestra director that also runs a Fine Arts Academy, Fine Arts Institute at the Heights is what we call it, and we've got, I think, about 45 students at present that are signed up to take either our music classes, and those are actually, there are more private lessons going on than that, but just, on any kind of instrument that you could think of in terms of, well, maybe not anything you could think of, but just, your traditional instruments. But we've seen that be really kind of a great way to kind of reach out to the community, people that might not come for any other reason might come, and for no other reason, maybe to avoid the smoky, scary music store where somebody's teaching a kid how to play guitar or something. So that's what he does for us. We've also got on our staff, we've got our Angela Irby, who's part-time, who does our children's music, and she just has an amazing program with worship for kids, and all the way through from choir to drama, through all different aspects. She kind of handles both ends of the spectrum for us. She does the children as well as the senior adults. So she kind of is both ends of the sandwich for us. Let's kind of look at least when I was sitting in your place, I remember if someone came in that was a music minister someplace, I always was kind of interested in terms of, okay, I'm getting tons of stuff every day in terms of great spiritual things and a great foundation and actual music and how to hone your craft and how to become a better musician, that kind of stuff. That I was always interested in okay, how do you make this work? What's your week look like? How do you plan worship? And how does it go from the inception of the idea to actually pulling off the service and see what God does to the finished product? And so let's kind of check that out. If you turn this over, like I said, I don't have any pages for you here, but we just have begun using Planning Center Online. And so I don't know if you guys are familiar with that at all, but man, it's a really cool thing. It's just www.planningcenteronline.com. But it's a service that you subscribe to, and it allows you to kind of connect all the members of your team without having to email 100 people to get the job done. It will send out, I'll put a service together that looks like this, and then it will automatically invite the people that are on that have been listed as participants in there, and they'll have the opportunity where they can either check yes or no, I can't be there. And it's really, we haven't been using it very long, but that's why it's in this format. But there's a lot of cool things about it. And you look down, and it's kind of cut off a little bit to the left. But this was on February 22nd. The service times are at the far left, and so that was 9 o'clock a.m. was the thing at the very top. But the awesome thing about this is, all the time we would put services together, and I would kind of take my best guesstimate about how long something would take. And sometimes I nailed it, sometimes I was way off. And this, we don't live and die by these numbers over here to the left, but it certainly helps us kind of gauge things where we are in the service, and if we need to make up some time, someone takes a little bit longer, maybe we decide we need to hang out on a for a little while. So that's the length in minutes. But if you look down, one of the cool features of and even on this, you look at it and go, oh my gosh, they even put down where Trent's going to speak, and that's me, and it said 20 seconds. And I've got this whole thing. Well, that was a special request from my pastor to say, okay, you say these things in worship, but I don't know what, sometimes they're right in line with what I'm preaching on, and because I get his stuff ahead of time so I can kind of figure out where he's headed, and they said, it would be really nice to know what you're going to say. So, okay, I'll put that in there. So that's why I literally wrote out everything I was going to say on this transition, but they're not always this cut and dry. But this has been a great tool for us to be able to kind of get everybody up to date at the same time. And the good thing about it is because it's an online resource, you don't have to worry about sending out a flow sheet on Tuesday, and then if you make one change to it, you got to send out the whole list again. It's just, if it's online, it's correct, because the minute I change it or my secretary changes it, everybody will get the updated copy. So it's been a really great deal for us. That's kind of a normal 9:15 service for us in terms of baptism. What we do at our place is kind of a mixture of everything. You'll see that Because of Your Love is kind of new, or relatively new, Paul Balash tune. We had a guest soloist in, Adam Paul, did I Bow on My Knees and Cried Holy. Winter, You Are Holy, Prince of Peace, I Need Thee Every Hour. So we got, a few hymns in there as well. And it can be, depending on the day that you come, it might look real traditional or it might look real contemporary, or it might be a total mix. So if you turn over to the next page, there's 1050 the same day. And this is service that Daddy does for us. And this is decidedly a little bit more edgy. And although this set, I wrote it, it's not totally edgy, but their instrumentation is a lot different than ours in terms of there's no choir, there's no orchestra. It's just about 5 pieces of trombone and pretty edgy stuff. If you keep going, the 9:15 service next week. One thing that we've done in an effort to try to, I guess we found that through the years is that it's sometimes hard to get a read on exactly what's connecting with people in worship, especially in our very much white, middle class, Southern Baptist environment, where someone will come up to you and go, "Man, that service was just so amazing." I go, "Oh, okay, I was watching you the whole time. You never moved your mouth. You never sang anything. You didn't stand up. You didn't bow. You didn't pray." And so it was hard for us to figure out exactly, was somebody complaining because we don't sing enough hymns, or they complain because we don't sing enough choruses, or somehow we didn't connect with them. And one thing, I think it was my pastor said, we're getting people talking about, you don't sing the hymns that I want, not just that you don't sing the hymns, you're not singing the right hymns. And we thought, a few months ago, we might just try something. And at the first Sunday of every month, just start at 9 o'clock instead of 9:15. And if you want to come early for a hymn sing, you can. And that's kind of what we've done. And so this is why you've got from 9 o'clock to 9:15 hymns. And man, we just hymn it out. And essentially we do, a lot of times in our worship service, we'll take a hymn, as it's not any groundbreaking deal, but take an old hymn and kind of make a fresh arrangement of it that might sound a little bit more current or whatever. But on these days, we sing it straight up out of the Baptist hymnal, although we don't have hymnals in the pews. We do our best job to do this the way that they're looking for it. And we pull out stuff that's just like, "Make Me a Blessing." We were singing that this past week, and it just doesn't sound like anything else that we sing, really, to me. It sounds, I always feel like I need to kind of pull out the roller skates and but it gives us the opportunity that we can kind of do something totally different. And I think there's, judging from the people that are coming, it's kind of interesting who comes to that. And it's been probably in our services, normally both services are about equally attended, and about normally 1,500 to 1,600 people per service, and maybe 300 or something come for the hymn sing. So it's kind of interesting. I don't know how long we'll do it, but we had an amazing hymn sing this past summer where before we started doing this, and we just said, "Hey, we're going to do it out in the atrium." We've got this atrium area that's real high ceiling. It's got great acoustics for just a cappella singing. And so we did that, and we just totally packed the place out. So there was definitely, we sensed a need to give our folks more hymns than they've currently been getting. So this is one of the ways that we're trying to do that. If you look over one page after that, you'll see a deal that says updated corporate worship planning calendar. And this is actually revised as of yesterday, so there might be some factual errors in here because it's just kind of I've talked to the secretary and I said, can you make the updates from the meeting? But one of the things that we do as a staff that really is just so helpful is we've got a group of about 10 people that meet probably once every 3 months or so. And we'll kind of put our heads together in terms of long-range planning. And our pastor leads the charge, and we find out what's on his heart and things. But then we just kind of flesh out our sermon series. Right now, our next week, he's starting off a new series, Who Framed God? And so I made these things really small. We can barely see them, but it was just taking up too much space. But this is kind of her taking down his secretary just kind of taking down what we were talking about. And so this is why it's kind of random and just kind of moving. But what's great about it is I can take this sheet here and really, because it's far enough out in most cases, like this stuff that we're doing right now, we knew 4 months ago. And so it allows me as the worship leader, especially at our service where we've got a lot more people to kind of communicate to, and where you've got to have a lot more lead time in terms of if you want to do a choir anthem or an octavo that has something to do with the message, you got to be several weeks out. And so it's a great tool to be able to do this. And I've never had this before to this degree. And if by chance you're doing what I do sometime and you get on staff with somebody who you can talk into this, I would highly recommend it. And I do realize it's not normal, but it certainly is. It's greatness. Just being able to kind of take it. So I think we put on where we are for the next through. If you just keep on turning, it goes through May. Actually, I think we take it all the way through September. But that just kind of gives you an idea. And our pastor preaches in series mostly. And so if we don't have anything else, we'll normally have at least a title and a scripture reference to work off of. And then as we go along, this sheet gets more and more full with helpful stuff. You might look on one of the things that's interesting, just to tell you a little bit about our church. And this hasn't gone through by any means yet, but we talked about yesterday of really taking this worship, grow, serve, share idea to the next level in terms of we do a good job of the church does of engaging people in our community. And when I say engaging people in our community, just in terms of working together with local schools, like there's Bouquet Elementary that we partner with, and we do English as a second language with the kids, and we do they fix up their teachers' lounge, and they pull off the school carnival for them, and all this kind of just ongoing relationships. But one thing that's really cool is on August the 2nd this year, we're going to try to do something that's way outside the box. I'm not even sure if it's going to happen, but I pray that it does. We're going to try to literally be the church to the community and not even have church services that morning, but literally encourage the 2,600 to 2,700 people that normally would be there on Sunday morning to engage with some aspect of their community, whether it's going and painting or being a teacher's lounge in a school, or whether it's repairing a park area or something like that. Just something that's kind of visible and that blesses people. And so we hope that you get into that and the theory is just awesome. And you just go, okay, now, all right, man, these economic times, what are we going to do about that offering? That would be really nice to have an offering that week. So we're still trying to work through, some serious issues with this, but I just saw that as we were cruising through and thought that might be something that'd be interesting to you. So it's kind of a church that's willing to kind of step out of the box a little bit and seek to really make those 4 things that we talked about or hold them at a priority. And really, that all of that kind of grew out of there's a book that there's a lot of people that love it and a lot of people that hate it, and I'm kind of right in the middle. But it's called Simple Church, and you guys might be familiar with it. But it just talks about the shift from a program-oriented church where everything is about the program and you've got to keep the program going. And if someone feels the need that, we need to start a women's ministry for people who wear moccasins, and they'll start that. You end up with 2,700 little ministries that nobody really does all that great, but we've got a bunch of stuff. And a few years ago, they kind of took to the idea of what are our priorities? And we decide we're going to worship, we're going to share, we're going to serve and grow. And if it doesn't line up, let's look at everything we're doing. If it doesn't line up under one of those four things, then let's really look hard at it. It doesn't mean we're going to get rid of everything, but let's at least look hard at it and try to put our money where our mouth is on some of these issues. And so they really kind of stripped down some of the things that were just kind of ancillary, that just weren't making a big difference, and really kind of got things aligned. And that has made a big difference as we've moved along, because we always kind of have that thing in the back of our head. Well, how does this fit into the grand scheme of things? And from a music ministry standpoint, it really kind of irks me in a lot of ways, because you just don't have the church that I came from previously, Sunnyvale. We were very program oriented, and we had stuff up at the church. I was at the church every night, and it starts making you just go, I don't know. Number one, I'm not sure that I'm being a great dad, because my kids never see me. But I don't know anybody in my neighborhood, and everybody I know is a Christian, but we got some awesome stuff going on, So we kind of step back from that. But the interesting thing about it is a lot of the things you kind of relied on. I know I have kids. I know I have some kids, kind of built-in kids there for the children's choir, because they're having adult Bible study at the same time. Well, there's no adult Bible study now at that time, and so now the kids have to just come because they want to, or that's a little scary, and it starts. And then there's nothing that goes on at the same time as the adult choir, so that's a little scary too. So it just kind of puts us in a different deal. But it's been really cool. One of the things that we've done with the choir, and once again, it's not a really new concept. And by the way, I think that every situation is totally unique, but it's really it's just more the basis change to me than it is the problems, because it seems like everywhere you go, it's just the exact same thing. How do we engage our people? And the style isn't as an important thing as, okay, let's just, whatever's going to work, let's figure it out and let's do it. But we've kind of moved away from a big kind of production influence, and where they used to do big pageants and big everything. It was just a big Christmas thing. But we found that we really weren't reaching. There weren't a lot of lives that seemed to be changing, but a lot of people would load up their church bus and bring it over to see our presentation. And we started looking at that. So what would happen if we put all that effort that we normally put into 4 weeks a year and put it into every week, and just make every week as great as it can be, and just as focused I guess I've been doing this for about 20 years now, but it's crazy that the time and the effort that goes into one service now is kind of real similar to what we would put into one of the productions 20 years ago. And the technical people that are involved just to pull the thing off are the same. It's more than it would have been then. So it's we've really, in this, when I came there, the pastor said, let's make worship has got to be, our Sunday morning worship is going to be your ultimate priority. So that's what we made it. If you'll turn over to where things start going on the horizontal way, and they're as confusing as possible, you can see it starts with January 4th. I included this because I thought it might be helpful to you. This is the chart that I work off of, and then I will take the one that we just looked at, that comes from a team of about 10. I put it in this little spreadsheet, and By the way, there's all kinds of funky things happening with this spreadsheet. You can tell I'm not really a great Excel person, so if anybody is, please feel free to come see me after the thing. I've got lines and things going all over the place. But a lot of these gray marks are color-coded, and like where I'll color code series and that kind of stuff. But this really helps me kind of get a handle on where we're headed, and in terms of, nobody else really cares what the choir's singing on Sunday, but I do, and I need to know how far out we've gotten. If I need a solo to do this song, and you know, it just kind of helps me keep things in order. And so I'll go in there and put the sermon theme, emphasis, and scripture, and then as ideas come to my mind, I'm famous for thinking of, I just have this killer idea, or I think it's a killer idea at the moment, and then in about 3 days, I can't remember what that killer idea was that I had. So now I'll just open this little document up and just throw something in there, and I might end up using it, or I might not. But at least it's for a guy that's a little scattered like me. It's been really helpful to just have something just to kind of come back to, and just say, okay, And really, one thing we started doing just a few weeks ago in February was I had another spreadsheet that I had all the praise team. We got about probably 20 different people that kind of rotate in and said we'll sing on the platform, because the size of our room, it really helps kind of the presence of the choir and the diction to have a few people on mic, and so we'll rotate those people in and out. And I'm going, man, why don't I just put them on this? So I added another row and put the vocalist on there. And I've got friends that they've got their stuff planned out like for 6 weeks or 6 months in advance. They know what anthem they're going to sing, and they know who's going to sing it, and they've got their solo and stuff. I kind of go a little bit. I'm a little closer in than that, but we don't necessarily take our praise teams. I'll work off the songs and what the service looks like before I choose the praise team that's going to be involved in that, because that way we'll make sure that we've got the right people in the right place, rather than having to pick the songs around people. So we try to do it the opposite way. But that will kind of give you an idea of how we keep things a little bit more organized from that. Somehow, I don't know that I'm great with staples. Let's see here. I think you should have on the very end, do you have something that says worship leaders? I'll find that online. Here we go. I included that as, this is what I give to the choir every Wednesday, and it just kind of helps us, the box to the left, I'll put all the anthems that are coming up, and that's actually the rehearsal order that we'll do. One of the cool things that happened this past week, I wrote on this article. We talk all the time about kind of providing our people with a soundtrack for their lives, and like if you, music has, or at least in my life, and I think for most people, it's so much easier for me to pull. I do my best to memorize scripture and everything, but the scripture that comes back always the easiest is the stuff that's connected to a melody, to me. And when I get in times where I'm just seeking the Lord, and it's amazing how he pulls back songs quicker than he does scripture without songs to me. And one of the things that we had happen a few weeks ago, I don't know if you're familiar with the song "My Hope." It's a Hillsong's deal. I don't think Arlene Check wrote it, one of maybe Ruben Morgan. But the song says, "My hope is in the name of the Lord, where my help comes from. You're my strength, my song. My trust is in the name of the Lord. You are faithful." Well, we got into a situation. It was straight from Psalms, but we got into a situation where one of our choir members her husband had cancer, but it really didn't look like it was all that, or at least they were acting like it wasn't all that big of a deal. We found out that there was, they went in for his checkup, and he had a tumor, and they thought things were contained, but they had opened him up, and it was a bad situation where things there was pancreatic, and it was just it was going to be a fast-moving cancer. And she was out that week, and we were praying for her, and then we went straight into that song. My hope is in the name of the Lord. I will trust in thee. My strength is in you. And it was just, now that song will never be the same for me now, because I connected it with that moment that was so emotional and so intense. We're going to sing that song this Sunday. And I asked her last night, I said, would you care if I share your experience? And he passed away. They said he has weeks, or he said he might have a month, but probably just a few weeks. But he passed away the very next day. And so it was just, a blow. And every time we sing that now, it's just right in the front of my mind. And so I think one of our jobs as worship leaders is really to put songs into people's lives that will make a difference. And it makes you look at the lyric. I love that Daryl Evans song. I'm Trading My Sorrows. That was out a few years ago. I love that song. But my pastor came up to me, former pastor. He's this kind of this way, but he goes, you said yes, Lord, 72 times. And I was going, okay, first, it disturbs me that you counted. But, and I don't think it's 72, but it was something, it was a lot. And I said, well, that's a good thing to say. Is it yes, Lord? I mean, what better can you say? Yes, Lord. But it definitely makes you look at your lyric and go, what is going to speak to the hearts of the congregation? Because you look out there, and it doesn't matter if you're worshiping with a crowd of 15 or a crowd of 1,500. Everybody comes in carrying something a little bit different. Especially our church is right in the kind of the telecom corridor there in North Dallas that runs 75 straight up through. And we got Nortel, TI, and Alcatel, and just some big companies that are just experiencing massive layoffs and everything, and our people are just ripe for the Lord to do something in their lives right now. And so I really think that sometimes He gives us the opportunity to speak truth into their lives and give them something that they can hang on to. So I'm excited about what that song is going to do through the lives of our people. Another thing that we're trying to do is, as we move kind of from a performance-based choir to more of a worship-based choir, is kind of take some of those resources that might have gone into a huge Christmas program or a huge Easter pageant or something, and put them into some projects. Like we're getting a trip put together to go down to the Galveston area with our adults, and we've taken trips for years with our students and had them working like crazy. But we're gonna do our choir and orchestra down there. It might not be the whole group, but it should be a pretty good number of them. They go down and just get our hands dirty and kind of help them do that. And then we're gonna come back and I don't know if it's my pastor just really wants to get rid of me for that Sunday, but it's like, yeah, man, we need to. We're gonna do it Friday, Saturday, and we're gonna come back Sunday afternoon. But we're working with a prison to do their service, their Sunday morning service, as we come back through Huntsville. So that's going to be cool. And my pastor was saying, I would love to be able to stand up and just say, our choir's not here today, orchestra's not going, and we'll do something a little bit different musically. But they're down, being the hands and feet, the hands and feet of Christ, down in that place where people are. There were some folks without hope. So that's kind of where we're headed with our choir and the way that we do things. One of the things that Rory Nolan, I don't know if you guys know him from Willow Creek, but he wrote that great book, The Heart of the Artist, and he's followed it up with the worshiping artist is the one that I'm reading right now. But I love what he says. His worship is participatory. It's not something done to me by a worship band. In fact, worship is not about me at all. Worship is all about God. If we allow it, worship can transform us. I just love that quote. And I used another quote of his the other day because I share the common affliction of being able having a hard time focusing sometimes. And you and you'll be leading worship, and you're thinking about 1,000 things. You're making sure that you get the song. You bring the, I don't know, I want to make sure I hit the cue for the flute player, so she'll know when to come in. And then you got something rolling. I hope they hit this video on time, or whenever you get, to the baptism, whatever. But your brain can just be all over the place. And Rory said, when he gets in situations like that, he concentrates and focuses on the attributes of God. And he said, when he does that, and if he's singing something like, "Oh Lord, you're beautiful, your face is always," or you're righteous, you're holy. When he does that, the focus shifts from him to the Lord, and it becomes a lot less about what he's feeling and all the things that he has to do than what it is about the Lord. So the other thing on these books that I put down there, I don't know, have you guys ever read The Fred Factor? You ever heard of that? Mark Sanborn, he's a speaker that does all across the country, but he's got an awesome little book that you can read in about an hour and a half. And we all have 1,000 books to read. And the last thing I wanted to do when I was in college really was to go read a book. But it will totally, especially if you're an MDiv and an MM, right?
What's that book again?
Yeah, I know you want to read it. It's Fred Factor, man. It's awesome. But he talks about how passion in life will turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. And all he does is he gives the story of Fred, who is his postman. And when he shows up, he moves into a new house in the Denver area, and the third day, his doorbell rings. He opens up the door, and it's Fred. And he said, "Hello, sir. I'm Fred Dorfman, and I'm your postal carrier, and just want to let you know I'm glad that you're here in the neighborhood. Welcome. If there's anything I can do for you, please let me know." And he said, "Do you mind if I ask you what you do for a living?" And he said, "Well, I'm a motivational speaker." And he goes, "Well, I guess you travel a lot." And he said, "Well, as a matter of fact, I do." And he said, "Well, if you'd like to, sir, while you're gone, I would be glad to take care of your mail. If you want to tell me if you give me a copy of your schedule, I can make sure that things are taken care of. You wouldn't even have to call it." First of all, he's like, "Oh, I'm a little weirded out that he would want to know my schedule. Is this guy working for somebody?" So he didn't do it. But he said, "No, you don't have to do that." And he goes, "Well, sir, I would hate for something to get messed up, and if there's mail coming out of your mailbox, these guys will drive by, and that's the kind of thing they look for, and they'll know you're out of town. They might end up breaking into your house, blah blah blah." And he's going, "Oh, okay, I understand." He goes, "Well," he said, "but I still don't want to do it." He goes, "Okay, well, sir, why don't you just let me? I'd be glad to put it in the door. I can put it here in the door, and nobody would be able to see it." And he's like, "Okay, that's cool." And sure enough, Fred was just a man. At every point, Fred would walk out of his way to make sure that this guy had service. And what he found out from talking with his neighbors and everything else was Fred did this for everybody. It just wasn't because he was, or that Fred took a liking to Mark Sanborn. It was because Fred was passionate about doing what he did well. And probably Fred would have been passionate about being president of the United States. He would have had a passion about that. But he was passionate about the mail. And so it didn't matter what he was going to do, he was going to do it. So it made Mark Sanborn start looking around and say, "Hey, how does that translate to every day?" And I can't remember what the company is, but you've seen, it's kind of what's the pay it forward concept or whatever, where you see the commercial where somebody sees somebody do a good deed, and then they go do it, and everybody kind of just passes along, everybody feels good. But truly, that's what, as I was reading that book, I was just going, you know what, if I didn't slough off from time to time, what kind of difference could I really make with my life, no matter what I was doing? And it works for worship ministry, but certainly works for even being a student, and what kind of impact can you have on the people that you're going to have, or that the people that you're friends with, and the people that you're just walking past on the campus. Somebody was walking. I was commenting when I was in college about how friendly my college was, and I said, "It's unbelievable. You just walk down, people, everybody talks to you. It's great." And somebody said, "Trent, because you talk to everybody." I said, "Oh, maybe that's true." but I just assumed it was a friendly place because I was going to try to go out of my way to make sure that I said, have you been to New York City and walked the streets there? Are you from New York City? I was walking we went and did a little mission trip, and we were like at West 71st, and we were walking back to the subway. We just got through doing some painting, and we were walking along the street, and it's funny to me in New York City, everybody's just so many people crammed in a small place. It's all information overload. If you talk to everybody, you would go absolutely insane. But we were walking along the road, and there was a older guy just out sitting on the stoop, just hanging out, and I said, "How's it going?" And he goes, "None of your business." I started laughing. None of your business. So I realized there are some times that's just like, yeah, this guy's weird. The only other person, when I went out there to check out the trip, the only person that talked to me was this lady who I thought I had a couple hours before I had to make my flight back to Texas, and I thought, I'm kind of close to Central Park. I'm going to go run in Central Park. How cool is that? And so I went over there, and I was running to the park, and I just had like one block before I got there, and I've been walking, and I'm like, okay, I can see the park. I'm going to kind of start running. So I was running kind of close to the street. Well, this lady opened up the door, it wasn't close at all, but apparently she thought I was way too close to her, and so she just, like, hey, glad to see you too. But the other thing about that is, you might not be aware, but I ran the marathon. I ran with the lead pack of the marathon that day. It was one of the big marathons. It wasn't the New York City Marathon. It was one of the other ones that leads up to that. And I got to come back and say, I ran with the lead pack. Of course, I was behind the rope that was keeping the spectators out. But I made it for about 100 yards with them. I heard the cop came by on his bicycle and was everybody clear the way or whatever. And I was like, okay. So I started running with him, and that was at the 12-mile point, and they were like sprinting. So I didn't keep on rolling. All that to say, I think that we can make a difference through what we do, and the opportunity to minister through music. To me, music is the vehicle. You know that, and it's fun to see when you set yourself up through music to be able to get into the lives of people and to be able to see them. And I was able to stay at Sunnyvale for about 12 years. And the cool thing about staying someplace 12 years is you start seeing people just grow. And some people grow into just an awesome knowledge of the Lord and just become more godly, and some people don't. But it's neat to look back and see that you've been able to be a person that's had an impact. And that's really, I come from, my dad's music minister as well. And so that was big time critical in my decision as I was trying to sense, okay, what am I going to do with my life? And I knew math was out. Although everybody tells me like music and math, they go hand in hand, because no, they don't. They do not. So don't listen to that. I had straight A's when I made it to 9th grade, and I made a D in Algebra 1. So let that be a lesson to you. I got my first test. I got it back and it said 36, and I went, okay. I said, what is out of this? Well, what is this out of? Like 36 out of 40. He goes, that's percent, Trent. Oh, okay, 36%. I think that's net. So I was sure that it wasn't math. But one thing that I knew just through watching my dad in ministry was that what he did was worth something, and it was making a difference in people's lives. And I saw kids as they went up through the music ministry asking him to marry them, and he was, he had his marry him and bury him suit, his black suit, he would pull out, but he was making a difference in their lives, and when people got into times of crisis, they would come to him because he had invested in them. And so that kind of inspired me to say, man, maybe this, maybe it really is possible to do something that you just love and that you're passionate about, and literally even get paid to do it, and just invest in the lives of people. So man, keep doing what you're doing. Do you guys have any questions in regards to the nuts and bolts of things? How we do?
I'm just wondering if, it just seems like your church is really big, and there's so many elements going on. Do you ever, think about maybe, what's on or one service, just be really simple and just, having an acoustic guitar and here, or
Absolutely.
just a piano?
Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, we're going to do that on March 15th. We're going to do something similar to that, where we thought, maybe this would be a good time to do it. When we're doing those hymn sings from 9 to 9:15 the last few months, we tried to do it a little bit different every time. One time I had a male quartet that they sang, and we didn't use the choir. They were sitting in the worship center. We found out when we put the choir back in the worship center, man, people really sang like crazy. I don't know if it was just my choir people singing, but it just felt a lot bigger and felt great. And so we did think, what if we totally stripped it down and just went for real acoustic kind of different vibe? And so we're going to have cello, violin, 2 acoustics, and no singers are going to be up for that day, and we're just going to take it down. So we do from time to time really change, and that's something else that I think this church does really well. And Dave Rogers, who's a graduate of Baylor, is our I don't really know what his official title is, but he helps the pastor and he helps me. But because it's kind of, like you say, there's a lot of moving parts to this thing. So he kind of helps us with all the parts that are non-musical. And so another cool thing that we do with our baptisms is it was kind of born out of needing to do something where it wouldn't be so awkward getting up and down the baptistry. Because, a lot of churches, the baptistry is up past the choir loft. In our case, that would be like 100 miles away. So they wanted to kind of pull it down. And so it is actually in the floor, in the platform area. And the pastor doesn't he doesn't have to put the waders on or whatever. He just baptizes straight across the little wall. And so he stands there dry and just can go on. And so it's not as easy to see from the whole room. It seats, a lot of people. But we've got image magnification, big screens, and so we'll just put a camera right down there, and they do that. But it's kind of awkward if you're totally wet and you've got to walk across this. It's right on the side of the stage, but you still have to walk up the steps, and everybody's looking. So we started using these. We thought, well, maybe this would be an opportunity where we could help them tell their story a little bit. And so in most cases, we have our folks that are going to be baptized do a short video where they come in and we'll edit it so it'll be a little bit more concise than most people can be. But as they're coming into the lights will dim, as they're coming into the water, they'll roll this testimony and say, "Hi, my name's Trent," and then they'll tell the story, just a real brief summary. This is why I've come today, and Jesus has changed my life, and so I want to tell the world. And so then they'll come back, and magically there they are. And then they'll baptize. The lights will go down. They'll play the next video. These people get out. So I don't know how I got onto that, but that's Dave. He kind of works those elements, and so it's really cool to have somebody that kind of can handle the baby dedications and coordinating with them, so I can worry about the musical things that nobody else really can do, or at least on our staff. But that was the thing that always bit me was, I would be in trying to get the choir ready for something, a few years ago when we didn't have Dave or anything, and I would really need to be out there talking to the person that arrived late for baptism, just to kind of clue them into what was going on. So that's really helped a lot.
Could you talk about children's choir and where it's heading, or do you see, how do you do that at your church? Because it's really contemporary, but it has a traditional.
Yeah.
How does your church do children's worship?
That's a good question. Well, what we're doing right now, we're kind of in flux, to be honest with you. And I think that as Angela's gone to kind of the metro conferences where the people that are doing this kind of across the nation in similar sized churches, they're all kind of wrestling with this. I almost said wrestling. They're almost wrestling with the same kind of issues. Like as we've taken the program stuff out a little bit, we still hung on to children's choirs because they really have done an excellent job through the years, and there's kind of a tradition of doing that. But they are moving towards, in our case, our gal is a big like production musical kind of person, and so they do. There was a time when they just went musical to musical. We're kind of moving away from that, where we'll do a musical, and then like they just a couple of weeks ago they presented a night or a concert where they took brand new worship songs and paired them with old hymns. I mean, really old stuff. And it was really awesome because she put a picture of the hymn writer and then a picture of the guy who wrote or girl who wrote the new chorus. And it was really cool, and weaved them together through that. So they'll do that, and they've got some things where, so she's kind of working by, rather than working semester-wise, kind of working by in short chunks, where it's say for these 10 weeks we're going to get this project ready, or for this 10 weeks you're going to have the option. You can choose either you can work with some drama stuff, or we're going to do like drum circle stuff, or rhythm percussion things, or they've done movement stuff, like dance stuff. So it's kind of all over the map right now, but truly we've been in discussions with, one thing that they do on Sunday morning is there's not a quote Sunday morning children's worship, but within the Bible study time, the Sunday school time, there's normally a large group session where they'll go in and they'll meet, and like for the older kids they've got a little praise band and that kind of thing, and there's a guy with a guitar that leads for the younger kids. But, so they have kind of a little corporate worship experience there, and then they break off into their different groups with their small group leaders. But one thing that we found is that there was a big difference between the musical excellence of what Angela did with her kids and all of her workers and that kind of stuff, and what they were able to do on Sunday morning. So we're talking about trying to figure out some way to merge those two, and to still make it where. And what we realized too is that there's we've got tons of more kids that come on Sunday morning because their parents are coming, than we do on Wednesday night when we offer the other children's part stuff. So one of the things, a problem I think that a lot of people have is the older the kids get, 5th and 6th grade, it's hard to keep them interested sometimes. And they just started doing a 5th and 6th grade program called iBlast. And they really started it not really thinking about the choir, and it was almost right on top of the time, almost. I mean, kind of really butted up against it, and really there wasn't great communication. But since that happened, we've had great communication now. So they're talking about how to turn in, how to make some of those kids that were involved in the choir some of the leaders in the worship time during that iBlast thing. So it's kind of right now an organic, just kind of figuring out how to. But I don't think that it will be the way that it was years before. I mean, I think it's going to have to be constantly evolving into. And I think, right now, I love student choirs, but they don't have one at the church where I am now. We had a pretty large student choir in Sunnyvale, but I think we're going to, as we look towards starting something. I mean, they do a great job of. Our big thing was we always did a big mission trip, and we had that to push for, and we had other things within the year. But they do a good job of mission trips already with our students, and so that's that we don't have really that working for us. But we're talking about kind of partnering with them. But maybe if I try to start a student choir, I'm not going to say we're going to start student choir. It's going to start in January, and we'll meet every Sunday at 4 till Jesus comes. It will probably be, hey, we've got 10 weeks here. If you want to be a part of this project, where we're going to go someplace and do some mission work, and we're going to do 4 concerts along the way or whatever. If you want to be there, if you want to do the trip, you're going to need to be at 8 out of 10 or something like that. That's how I'm planning on doing it. That way it can be a short-term commitment, and if that goes well, then maybe we make it a little bit longer-term commitment that way. But I think that's how we're going to try it, rather than just kind of say, hey, you guys want to do student choir? And it probably will be because of our situation, and I know of tons of situations where you wouldn't necessarily do this because you could go a lot more choral in nature, but ours will probably have some elements of kind of stomp kind of stuff. I don't know if you guys are familiar with like G3 Music Publishing, but they've got that stomp series where they literally, there's a video and they'll show you how to do it. And they've got a deal where, you take 10 folding chairs with you and they make a stomp routine and do all that stuff. So it'll probably be a little bit more eclectic rather than straight up choral singing for our situation. Yes, sir.
Where do you balance accommodating people and challenging people? Because you put this hymn thing in beginning worship. That's making people happy, but it doesn't necessarily tell them what worship's really about.
Right. What we're trying to do is, I think, to do both, if that makes any sense. Because and that's what we're trying to do, and they're really even from these my pastor challenged me to kind of, okay, write down what you're going to say, because truly we do, the onus is on us to take our people from where they are to where we feel like they're going to most easily engage with the presence of the Lord. And so we're kind of trying to do both. And it is, some days I feel really great about it, and some I'm ready to quit. But thankfully there's a lot more days where I feel great about it. But I'm totally conflicted on this hymn sing day. I'll totally tell you that, because if I could do it, if I could set it up the way that I would like to set it up, I like to use everything and it to be real kind of celebrative, and people feel the freedom. If they want to raise a hand, they can raise a hand. If they want to bow at their chair, they can. Or if they want to come kneel at the altar, and we've got all of that. But we also have the people that wouldn't do that if you just held a gun to their head. And so trying to figure out how you balance all that is the hardest thing about what we do, and figuring out how much do you push and what do you say without totally alienating the ones that, for whatever reason, they can say, Trent, I'm joyful. They just look at you, I'm totally joyful, Trent. I'm not singing it. And I would say that too is one of the hardest things about, as we lead worship, is trying not to totally gauge the success of our worship on the outcome of the physical posture of the people that we're worshiping with. And that's a hard thing. Because you're always, most of you guys are performers by nature, in terms of musicianship, and you know how you kind of thrive on, if you get something back from the congregation or both the audience and the other applications, then you're going to give it back. By the way, I was singing at Granbury Live, which is a little theater up in Granbury, right on the square, and a little country show of all things. But I walked out and I had to do an intro, and I said, so we're looking for a lot from our congregation tonight. I'm like, oh, excuse me, audience, how about that? Let's try an audience. But I've so told myself that we're not the audience, that sometimes it shifts out in bad ways. But man, that is, to me, that's the hardest thing to try to figure out, and walking that line between, are we going to do that just because they, I think the hardest thing is to try to figure out what percentage of people feel the way that the squeaky wheel does. Because the people that are really engaging, the people that really are liking what's going on, normally won't tell you. Or they won't tell you in such a way where they carbon copy the pastor on their email. So, man, that's definitely one of the toughest lines to walk. Anybody have a
question about choir, because you have choirs in your church. What if somebody that's not very